Hey, what's up, friends? This episode of Power Spike is brought to you by Trolli Sour Bright Crawlers, the multi-flavored sour gummy worms that want nothing more than for you to chew their deliciously sour heads and bodies into pieces. The Trolli Sour Bright Crawlers crawl to the beat of their own yummy gummy drum and are truly unlike any other sour gummy out there. That one was perfect too. It's just worlds. We're in worlds form, baby. Power Spike is back.
That's right.
We're
we also got
Busan.
the
It's in Busan. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. You're in Busan now. We also got the Dgon. You and I, Andrew, our producer, who when he was in Korea, he brought us the 2 bags, and we actually just mixed the very berry and the regular ones together. It's great.
I got all the good ones. This is actually my favorite. I lied. I know whatever I was saying before. My favorite is what I lied. Strawberry blackberry is the best. Done.
It is. Yeah, I think the very berry. I like the mix though. I like having both. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much to Trolli. Also, thanks to Dgon for getting sick faker interviews.
That was amazing. The career's made. You know, flying out here, you're a little nervous about like, hey, what's going to happen? Because there aren't very many. I think there might be like 2 other North American outlets in person, maybe 1, and maybe like 4 English-speaking outlets. And then there's like 50 like Chinese and Korean outlets. Like, it's very lonely out here. And sometimes you don't get interviews. And sometimes you don't, it's like they don't show up. Like Tarzan didn't show up in LNG. Actually, that's funny because I didn't get the LNG interview or KT interview because, Tarzan didn't show up. But you apply, and sometimes they give it to you. And I remember checking the box and being like, well, I could ask for Zeus and Owner, but instead I got, I'm going to go for Faker and Gumayushi. They ended up giving me Faker, and the rest is history. It's been great. Yeah. Guys, it's been a heck of a quarterfinals so far, but I know everyone here at Worlds, and we saw in the chat earlier, and I'm sure on YouTube, they're going to want to flame Tarzan and why it didn't sweep. But before that, we had news pop off back in the LCS about some roster movement. We had roster movement going on early on. Roster mania is happening. This is the most disconnected I've been from it, Dom, because I'm physically at World, so I haven't been up to date, or at least like trying to get the scoop on it. But we've had some Cloud9 roster rumors, and Cloud9 social media having a lot of fun with that. FlyQuest have thrown something out. Immortal signing Mask from, I think it was a Unicorns of Love, I think is a role there. Mm-hmm. What are some of the big ones that have jumped out to you in terms of roster rumors?
I mean, the biggest one is obviously JoJo to C9. I mean, JoJo to C9, that's fucking mega hype because JoJo is just, I mean, to me,
it was the most obvious roster change, though. Like, everybody knew this was going to happen. Like, he was either going to FlyQuest or to Cloud9, probably to Cloud9. You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely. And now FlyQuest needs an NA mid laner because they apparently got Bwipo and Inspired on that team. So I think that the JoJo move is super hype. Like, JoJo playing with Blabber, that's probably one of the best like pairings of mid jungle you could ever have in North America, because not only are they 2 of the best players in the region, they're also 2 native players, which means that you like have import slots open. Fudge looks like he's going to return to the roster, and Berserker is like already like signed to return, or like he's verbally committed. Vulcan's on the roster, so they're going to have an import slot available if they need it down the line, which I think is really big. Yep.
Yeah, I was saying this on my VOD review stream. People are like, who do you think should be in top lane? I'm like, Wonder. Obviously, like, you just want a stable, ultra stable weak side top laner. Now, maybe they get Impact back. Like, that's another possibility. But I think having Wonder in this roster just makes a ton of sense. Like, people were saying, what about Bwipo? I said, no, you don't want Bwipo. Like, the level of flipping between Bwipo, Blabber, and JoJo Pion is like way too high. You need stability. You need some fucking stability. Let JoJo and Berserker carry. Get yourself a weak side king. And I think Wonder would be incredible.
It just depends on what you're going for, right? Like, if you're a team who just wants to like, make it internationally and maybe get out of like Swiss stage, and that's your aspirations, then get like a Wonder Impact type of guy. If you want to like flip it to potentially be like one of the greatest NA teams ever, then you get somebody like Bwipo. Like, it just depends on what you're looking for.
Fascinating. I guess I never really thought of it that way, Dom, because you just, when you think of flipping, it sounds bad. But I guess you could get Summit, right? That's flipping. He's open and he's familiar with the organization.
No.
Is just I
think Cloud9. I think Jack is done with Summit forever. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think Jack wants another ride on the Summit train, man.
Yeah, I mean, also like Summit, it's just he's not playing close to as well as he was in 2022 spring. Like now he's think about it. Pioshik and Summit were just losing to the VCS top jungle. Like they're just losing to Kiaya and Levi. Like I don't know, bro. It is what it is. You can't just be losing that, and they were. So, I don't know. I feel like Summit's level of play really dropped off. We didn't see him dominating lanes the same way. He's just a different player now.
All right. Well, yeah. Andrew throwing this one out there. Producer Andrew can't help himself. And this is one of the few times where I call him out. He threw out, what about your boy Hoon? This is a Hoon angle, man. Let's get him back.
Yep, it is a Hoon angle. Bad Hoon is never coming back. Hoon is dead.
Let's take a look at so FlyQuest, right? You got the Whippo inspired in there. So moving on from Spica and Impact, they were in contention for JoJo. That was actually the early rumblings that I heard earlier on, that FlyQuest was willing to make a splash, that JoJo to them was the lead candidate. And then now things haven't gone. They've moved away from Prince. They don't have Vulcan. Where does this team go after they went super team last year, and now instead of building around North American parts first, they've built around their import parts first?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the roster, theoretically, I think it will just be better on paper. I mean, Inspired is mega stable, and I think that he'll always elevate a team. Like I can't imagine Inspired being on a bottom tier team. Like he's never been on a bottom tier team in his entire career. Like he'll elevate your team to like a 4th, 5th place level, so it gives you that floor, and then hopefully you can fill in the roster with good enough pieces. Or like, you know, Masu for example just ends up being really insane, and you end up actually having a team that can push to the top. But I think that Inspired is really, really valuable because he's somebody who talks a lot in game. He's somebody who will communicate everything that needs to be communicated, and he'll at least make sure that you're not terrible.
Monte, who do you want to see over there?
I think it's probably Palafox, if I had to guess. That potentially might be like heading over into the mid lane position, or you're going to develop some talent. Like people are going to make the obvious like Ryoma, Papa Smithy jokes, but I with Insanity re-signing with Shopify Rebellion and them needing a North American mid laner, obviously with Jojo Pion also out of the picture, the rumors were that Jojo was in obviously like a target of FlyQuest, and among the higher spending teams, it's always going to be the case that everybody wants Jojo because he's the best domestic mid laner, so you don't have to get that import to fill it for him. I also wonder at this point, like how close Inspired or Whippo are to green card status, because oftentimes just knowing the way that Papa Smithy operated, like he was waiting for a long time to get someday his green card so that he could make the roster moves later on that he actually wanted to make, and was kind of in a holding position with 100 Thieves until that happened. And I think it's probably like maybe a year or two out. But if you're confident in these guys and you're signing a long-term deal with them, then perhaps you're willing to kind of be maybe less good than C9 this year because you're trying to build this team for the long term. Like that's the real reason why Ryoma was in that 100 Thieves roster.
Yeah.
That they took a flyer on a guy who might have been underdeveloped in Oceania and thought, okay, well, we're just kind of waiting for the US government to approve this green card. So for someday, and then we can make a change if necessary. So I don't know. I think as a short-term solution, probably the best option is Palafox right now, but it'll depend on, what NRG does and how committed those players are to staying together as a roster. There's also, it's interesting that they're going with an Academy AD. Losing Vulcan's obviously huge as well. But I think Vulcan always liked being on Cloud9. It was more that Sven and Vulcan were really not compatible together, and that's what caused Vulcan to exit the team.
Yeah, Masu is actually super legit though. From my experience playing, like I've played with this guy for years in solo queue. He's just a fucking beast. Like this guy, I can't imagine him not being good.
So why do you think Vulcan wants to, leave FlyQuest after his brief stint there, considering they're replacing, the management and the coaching staff, and he has this super legit AD carry potentially to play with?
I mean, I think that it's just like when he looks at the Cloud9 roster, it's just a better roster on paper. Good. I mean, he gets to play with Berserker. Like I think Masu's super legit, but I think Berserker is just like the best.
Sure.
80 carry. Like he might be the best player in the entire region, right? So you have that. You have JoJo, who he won a championship with. Blabber. I mean, I think it's a way safer bet that Cloud9 is legit than FlyQuest maybe being legit.
Yeah, I also think we should assume that all EG players are up for grabs because I don't think EG is going to be a team in the LCS next season. And so any players that you want off of that roster, it makes sense that Jojo Pian, moves off there. So it'll be a big change, I think. And there's going to be a lot of shuffling around. Again, part of this is that player contracts, as I've said previously, are being restructured in the LCS, and so players are being told, hey, you need to take this lower contract, or we're just gonna void the contract, and you could be a free agent. So I think a lot of players are wisening up. And by the way, guys, just because teams are signing new players that are good is not an indication of the LCS's financial well-being. These players are taking smaller contracts than they were before, and basically, if you want to stay in NA, these are the contracts that you have to accept. And honestly, contracts all around the world are going to be going down in scope. So the only other choice is for players to retire, guys. They're either going to play for less money or they're going to retire. Those are the two choices.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people have tried the retirement and stream angle, and it's like streaming league it's not what it used to be. like you see the viewership now. I mean, it's pretty tough, especially when it comes to like North American time zones. If you want to stream, you have to appeal to European fans, and like North American fans just don't really exist. I mean, if you look on Twitch right now, like it's 6 p.m. PST currently when we're shooting this, and the highest viewed League stream has 5K viewers. Like League is so dead compared to what it used to be when it comes to like trying to stream for like Western viewers,
gameplay at least.
Viewers.
Yeah, we're not talking about like there's still a big esports streaming. Like obviously, Dom, you're doing extremely well. Kadril's like doing extremely well. Ellis is doing extremely well. Like the co-streaming angle is there. You also see the big streamers in other languages. Ibai killing it, obviously. But I agree in terms of like actual gameplay streamers, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough out there.
I was looking at the contract database for a little bit. EG has now moved their pieces that were under contract for another year. So kind of leading into what you were saying there, Monte.
Well, what they're doing is they're probably trying to recoup money via buyouts before they get rid of their team, is my guess. I think they're trying to maximize the value of what's on the books
JoJo
right now.
And it was Inspired.
Yeah. They're trying to maximize the value of what's on the books now by selling these players for whatever they can get. And then I imagine they're just going to get rid of their LCS slot to somebody.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening. I guess the last part here, Dignitas is the only one I think that has fully confirmed a signing publicly. Officially, I guess Cloud9 social media has been doing stuff, but XU is going to be bumped up to the jungle role here with Rich still locked in and Jensen under contract for another year. I mean, with Santorin retiring, so he's moved on, even though he's under contract for another year. Dignitas have pieces, 100 Thieves, probably going with Sniper. Is there another team or another roster that you're interested in taking a look at here, Dom?
Not really. I mean, I think the Immortals one is one that we could touch on because they've committed the sin that most North American teams do, which is go for like a 23-year-old import that's been perennial academy in Korea, in Mask. So they got that pairing with Armeo. I don't know, man. I'm so tired of seeing these types of moves. Like it just the hit rate on him has been so fucking low that I just don't understand why it's a thing. And what's crazy is like Mask is such a forgettable player. I watched him in EU Masters actually. I didn't even remember that I had watched this guy play full series before. That's how forgettable he was. And that's versus amateur competition. So we'll have to see how it goes with him, but I just have no hope for moves like that.
Well, you don't like
Monte,
the amateur grandpa move that you think that they think that somebody is just going to take the next step for absolutely no reason when they've been training for years and years already?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, but it's also just if you've played in academy in Korea for 4 years, there's probably a reason why they don't want you to move up. So like the chances that he's actually a gem, I just feel like are so fucking low. And then especially when you consider the org that's signing him, I would have more of I'd have more faith if like a top org was willing to do something like this. But you look at the standard of Immortals rosters, the standard of play that they've had for years. It's just I just can't imagine it working. Knowing the LCS is just going to be a dumpster fire. They're just going to be bottom place again.
I think Dignitas is smart to hang on to Jensen. I think, the longer that he gets back in the game, the more valuable he's going to be. And as long as you have Jensen, I think you have a certain floor that you can expect in terms of your performance. And he's probably not costing too much money. I expect Doublelift to probably be out. Like, why would you stick around for peanuts when you can, stream instead? I also think he's just frankly more valuable to the LCS as a co-streamer because their viewership is absolute dog shit. So I don't know. I think actually Doublelift does more good as a streamer rather than being a player on one of these teams, because that way you get Doublelift in all the games, or at least all the games that he feels like co-streaming, as opposed to just the games that he's playing. I think we're going to see. I'm curious to see what the LCS does. I anticipate that they will do a format change this year, as I've said multiple times. I don't think they stick with the same format anymore. I don't think they're going to change the days. I know you guys want that to happen, but they're committed to Valorant in those weekend slots. So, and it makes sense.
I've heard they are going to change the days, so I guess
are they?
That'd
be very interesting.
They're going to go Saturday, Sunday again, but I mean, this is from like unreliable.
Yeah. I think it'd be hard though, but we'll see.
Sorry, that's
it'd be
huge.
We'll
see. That would be huge. That would really be huge. I think that was like the one move that was so ass that even when Travis did his sit down with Nas and tried to defend it, that didn't make any fucking sense. Like, that didn't make any sense.
No,
you don't. With other people, just
wait. You're saying that LOL esports executives make decisions that make no sense? Wow. Well, it's revelatory.
A lot of times it makes sense, but that one made no sense, right? Even that, I couldn't defend that one. So, I think the most interesting one for me that we haven't talked about yet and is under the radar because we're all still feeling good is NRG. Because they have all the coaching staffs there, I think a lot of their players are out of contract this year. No, it's just Victor and Dokla are out of contract. Everyone else is under contract for a little bit longer, and Ignar secured the bag. He has it for 2 years until 2025. But the Andy Miller went out in an interview saying, "Hey, this isn't sustainable to have this many coaches." They were pretty hands off with the roster going into the summer split when they took over from CLG, and that's props to them. But now they have the opportunity in the first off season to really make some changes. And so I'm interested if they're going to try to make moves with the roster. Obviously, they're going to make moves with the management and the coaching staff. So we'll see what happens.
I'll say this about NRG. Like, you may not like it that Andy Miller says these things, but honestly, and I am an Andy Miller enthusiast, as I have stated many times on this show.
Yeah.
He is a good guy for not immediately terminating all those coach contracts when he took over the team. Like, he committed to seeing the costs out for the year, even if he disagreed with how expensive things were and how CLG had run things, and he didn't just dump people right on their ass. So I think he has concerns about sustainability, as does everybody else. And here's what we're going to see, guys. We're going to see teams cutting down to the $2.2 million stipend or whatever they get from Riot, the rev sharing, right? We're going to see teams cutting down close to that number so that they can at least break even, if not be profitable. And that makes sense because we want a sustainable industry, right? We want a sustainable LCS.
For sure. And I guess that wasn't an indictment of Andy. It was just that he's already come out and said that, right? I think all those points that you made is like super valid and whatnot, but that does mean that this just like ragtag group of LCS vets who are the mentors for the LCS players. It was just such a unique setup to have that many positional coaches with all the history and games behind them. Like, think of that roster that could have been made with their coaches with Soaz, Jews, DeMonte, Apollo, and Mash. That's like probably 1,000 plus games of professional League of Legends as your coaches there, right?
Way more. So as
that's what I'm saying.
Close to 1,000. Like, I mean, so
yeah,
has like 500 at least.
Yeah. So I think that's that's why I think that's interesting. Less an indictment on Andy, more of just sadness that it just can't exist in a sustainable world. All right. Well, those are a lot of the LCS offseason rumors that have been popping up. Where do you want to see some of your favorite players? Do you wish that that EG collective goes away, which means maybe Danny can come back on in? Let us know the hopium takes in the comments over at our YouTube channel at Last Free Nation. And while we're there, we have a little bit of a trailer for you from the other offerings that all of us setting sail on Last Free Nation are providing to you with multiple different hobbies and things that you like outside of esports. Why don't we go and take a look?
In a world full of endless sequels and soulless remakes, ruled by tyrannical corporate overlords, but hope remained, as there were some who resisted. A few good men took it upon themselves to fight the good fight, to create content for all, and to forge one last free nation. Risen from the ashes of esports, they dare to discuss
The aesthetic of that subculture, the themes of that subculture.
They keep pushing this technology. I haven't really ever liked it, but this time around, I was totally in.
He's going to go mad ambitious here, going to be something big. It's not at all. This is one of his understated. If you hadn't told me it was him, I'd never guess.
analyze,
incredibly, we add humanity to the monster, and the monsters are always super more interesting.
Demonstrated the concept that evil is ultimately self-defeating.
It's the cycle of the inevitability of that existential horror.
and critique.
Like, none of the things I would normally criticize this show for, I can apply to this episode.
Because it's boring. These are just smoking doobies. And
Also, where did they get it?
What's their weed supply?
but
I know.
also,
What's the dealer?
what
Their
I-
dealer's unbelievable.
To laugh,
It's obviously that, isn't it? And they're just like,
And then they all start shooting in the place where he was. Like, they don't have any sense of object permanence.
to love,
The romance, the emotional gravitas.
Do you want to breed?
and most importantly, to flame.
It's ridiculous. And it's just bad. It's just a bad way to end this movie.
you're going to go, oh, the graphics haven't aged what, you
Oh, they
idiot.
look great.
You fucking idiot.
That made no sense.
From Last Free Nation Culture, 5-time Korean hype train conductor, MonteCristo, Shen 1 of 2, Doa, Esports, Thorin, and Hell in a Cell champion, Richard Lewis, presents to you Nerd Legion for your fantasy and sci-fi needs, and Foreplay, a fun foray into genre classics. Join them every week as they dive headfirst into the best and the worst of TV and film, and bring to you expert opinions,
Crucially, one of the best things this movie does is it doesn't give you all the answers.
hot takes,
And how many fucking silly ass episodes are we going to have this season?
and a true love for cinema.
Pierce that really exquisite veneer. There is something great about this film. There really is at the heart of it.
Only at Last Free Nation Culture.
There it is, Last Free Nation Culture. We've launched it already. Make sure to head on over to all your favorite platforms and give it a follow so that you can see all the beautiful artwork from our friend Atan. I think it's Atan Talis, Atan Art.
Tantalas, yeah.
Atan Talas, my Filipino brother, who does all of that. And of course, you can see all the Nerd Legion foreplay content out there that Monte has been leading. How has it been, Monte?
It's been really fun. It's been really fun. Yeah, it's been going great. I think those are two of our best shows right now. Yeah, I think you guys, especially like if you guys like watching along and doing our weekly movie club thing, which is Foreplay, I think you'll really enjoy it. So a lot of people I know have been keeping up with us on that. We're releasing the Face Off one soon, and then we're heading right into 90s action with the first Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, followed by No, next one is Total Recall and then Con Air. So 90s action this month should be a good time.
Quaid!
There we go.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, we really want to hammer home that we're across multiple different platforms. So if you're on, obviously, Twitch, give me a pog right now. If you're on YouTube, give me a pog as well, but you're not going to see the emote there. And then our TikTok and all of our platforms. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning on in. We appreciate it. A couple people that will also be able to tune on in are the LCK teams that got eliminated in the quarterfinals. That one was pretty good. I'm pretty proud of that one. Let's dive in to our next segment of the week as we've had the LCK teams get knocked on out. It's Everything is on Fire. All right, big sadness here for the reigning LCK champions in GenG. Sadness for all the believers of KT and so
Damn
close. That was close. Also, it made me almost forget that NRG got knocked out too, Monte.
Oh, right. That happened. I forgot about that entirely.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Anyway, T1 still in, but let's hand it on over to our LPL aficionado in Dom. What did you make of these matches with the LCK team struggling, except T1, in those games?
Well, I mean, I'm just happy that LPL has already proven that it's the best region in the world, because if you go by LCK math, which they tried to do in 2021, it doesn't actually matter who wins Worlds. It just matters the amount of teams that actually make it to semifinals. That's the metric that you use to determine what the best region in the world is. So LPL, 3 teams in semifinals. The number the number 2 seed technically from LPL beating the number 1 seed from LCK. LPL's already won Worlds, boys. It's the best region in the world. Take it home.
That's right. Yeah. It doesn't matter that Weibo managed to make semifinals due to this garbage ass format without ever beating an LCK or LPL team, right?
Exactly. None of the context matters. None of the context matters at all. That's what I've learned. GenG got to play against Cloud9 to make it to semifinals. And it didn't matter that RNG and EDG had to cannibalize each other on the other quarterfinals. That was, before they actually played into GenG, before EDG played GenG. None of that mattered. All that matters is the sheer amount of teams that make it to semifinals.
Also, didn't matter that all the LPL teams were riddled with COVID last year either, when we saw three LCK teams make the semifinals.
Oh yeah, exactly. I forgot who was it that was just coughing up a lung? Was it
Gala? He looked terrible.
Yeah, it was Gala. Holy shit,
he looked almost as bad as he looked after watching Tarzan run him down 3 games versus T1. Like, it was crazy how bad he looked.
We'll get to that. Okay. So, Dom, would you like to do your victory lap on GenG first?
I mean, not really. I mean, I feel like GenG, they're just one of those teams where they just always underperform when it comes to international play, and there's no real reason for it. I mean, it's just depressing to watch like Chovy play at a level under what he's capable of. For just for reference, I had Chovy as my second best player in the world coming into this event. If you base it on like summer, like this guy was an absolute fucking monster in summer. And if you look at like the series, like the finals that he played versus T1, for example, and then even like the semifinals, this guy was just in fucking form, and he was able to really elevate his play. He stopped being just the guy that was like, farming mid all the time. He was willing to go down 20 CS and make roams happen. He essentially completely outplayed Faker in the finals, just in almost every single facet of the game. And then to see this guy that shows up at Worlds, like, who is this player that we're actually watching? Who's this guy picking Conqueror Azir, losing lane to Yagao, or going even with Yagao in a matchup that's supposed to be winning? Yagao is not that laning genius. Like, Yagao is not a guy that should have a CS lead. Yagao is good outside of lane. How is Chovy going into a matchup versus BLG and Yagao in a control mage meta where Azir, Orianna, Syndra are some of the strongest picks, period? And how is he going even with with Yagao? It should just never happen if you follow GenG throughout the year and you know what their play style is and what the strengths of that team are. You would think that this meta would just be good for GenG overall, but when you watch like their approach to the series, I think they had a very off approach, trying to take away Bin's Jax and giving it to Doran. I just really hate that idea. I would rather just ban the Jax and play without it completely instead of trying to, really deny Bin his Jax. Like, just ban the Jax when you play against BLG. It's the easiest way to deal with that problem.
I mean, there was a lot of wacky shit. I think this is part of it is definitely the GenG choke job that we've seen in international performances. Like, there's no denying that is a factor here. But I also think that this is one of the hazards of playing only 4 games in the Swiss stage, which is that you may not actually have a good read on the meta when it comes to stage games at that point in time, because they were doing some really fucking weird shit in their drafts. And games 1 and 2 were really tragic, I think, in that angle. Now, clearly, there's some stuff you didn't expect. Bin played his first ever career game on Rumble. Jun hadn't played Jarvan for he'd played like a couple Jarvan games previously, but this was not a champion that he is known for. You have to assume they're going to play stuff that is meta, though, powerful within the meta. And to be clear, Jun had an amazing fucking series.
I don't think you do. Like, Bin is just not the guy that plays meta champions if he's not comfortable on them historically. Like, for example, when Gragas was super fucking meta in spring and it's this pick that like 369 is playing all the time, like, Bin was playing none of it, and then when he tried it in summer, it didn't look good, and he dropped it. I don't think Bin is the guy that normally is able to pick up that many like champions. Like, Rumble doesn't sound like it would be something that he would be super good at. I think that giving him the first Rumble game is fine, but after he proves that he can play it, then you have to address it throughout the series.
Sure.
And I feel like GenG was so rigid in drafts. Like, when you look at that Game 5 draft, even though the champions that BLG selected are not BLG champions, they're not champions that you would expect BLG to be super good on. The fact that they got all those champions together, it was such a blatant outdraft that it was extremely hard for GenG to win. I mean, I think Tabi really fucking coach gapped score throughout the series. When you just look at the adaptations game to game and you look at just like how everything was, ended up, it felt like BLG lost games because players played bad. Like the Yagao Nico game was just fucking horrible, right? Like, he runs down game 4 with the Nico. It never felt like Tabi was actually getting out coached. It just felt like he put his team in the best positions possible all series.
I also think, there's just a lot of question marks around GenG's priority here. Like, why are we banning the Xayah on blue side? Paze is an extremely good Xayah player, and you would think that ban should be forced onto the red side of the draft so that you actually can prioritize it. They were doing a lot of stuff to kind of like prop up Doran in this series, particularly in game 1, where they actually did ban the Rumble, in spite of the fact that obviously we know that hasn't been a big pick for Bin. But they're also banning Cassante and Renekton and early picking the Jax. And then on top of that, they just completely fail to, Doran completely fails to do anything with these advantages that he's been boosted basically by the draft. And we've seen the Bin Doran matchup before, and it hasn't gone great for Doran. And so I think you understand why they want to do that. But if it's not working, you can't actually invest that many resources in propping up Doran here. And you have to put the onus on some of the players that are actually performing, right? So I don't know. I think their priority was super weird. I didn't like a lot of the drafts that we saw from this team. It was a very underwhelming performance across the board, from game prep to in-game play. It was a bummer. It was a big bummer.
One of the questions that'll be asked here is that star player in the mid lane in Chovy, and I think this is a good question. What do you think he needs to get over this hump? Do you think going to the LPL would help? Do you think it's gonna fix itself once he's able to get over the hump at Worlds and get to the semifinals, get to the finals, something like that? But what does a player like that has, like, I guess Monte is, or I guess for both of you, that has the yips where they're not quite able to get over this mental barrier and they keep choking in a process that and you've seen them be able to do in smaller stakes? What does he need to do to get over the hump?
I mean, I think it's impossible to answer without knowing him as a person. Yeah. Like, I don't really know the reason for his choking. Like, I don't know if he's super nervous before matches or if he feels like he needs to do things like in the game that he's not accustomed to in order to win, or, like the prep is off, or his synergy with it, or like his communication isn't as good as it needs to be. I think it's like impossible to answer this question without knowing the reason why he's choking. I don't think that like choking is this broad term where everyone chokes in the same way. I think that people choke for different reasons, and I have no idea what the reason for his choking is.
All right, well, there it is, folks. We tried. But I think Dom's answer and Monte's answer is
yeah. I
pretty
mean, like for
clear.
example, like this time it felt like his choking was more like based off prep and not being comfortable like enough early in the series. And then like for example, last Worlds, like he was choking mainly on Zika's dick for the entire series. So it just depends on like what is actually happening in the series.
Yeah. I just remember the game 3 where it felt doomed and Doran came on the Aatrox around, was it the Dragon Pit, to be able to get the couple of kills and kept the game going. And I was like, okay, cool. Now look, you have Doran. Doran of all players in the elimination game, the one stepping up for you, Chovy. Like, come on, he's giving you the extra life. He's giving you the extra chance. But wasn't quite able to get over the hump there. Let's move over to KT, where KT, I felt like, I mean, both series were close by scoreline here, Monte, but the KT series felt more winnable. It felt like we got to see JDG bleed in a way that we didn't expect.
I think that it's not the biggest surprise. I think with JDG is that their teleport usage was off in this game, which is not something that I would have accounted for from them. Like, I think that the side lane plays and the commitment to plays, and especially with TP, was a lot better from KT overall. Now, we didn't expect KT to win this series, obviously, but I also didn't expect KT to put up this much of a fight and maybe send this to 5 games. Obviously, without the insane throw at the end of game 4, like absolutely ludicrous throw. I mean, they had so many opportunities to win that game. They were not like their brethren at T1, who really like to just kind of pressure the Baron constantly and see if they can draw TPs or they can sneak it out. They were really reluctant to do it. And then when they did do it, they completely disrespected Knight and Ruler and had Keen like shadowing the top lane instead of actually zoning people off the Baron, which was just completely psychotic in that situation. So it was extremely, extremely disappointing to see the end of that, but also losing in the most KT way possible. Game 1, I think, gave people quite a bit of hope for this roster because, Cuz actually had a very good tournament. Like, we kept waiting for Cuz to revert to form this entire year. That was the big caveat with KT, which is, well, I know they're doing really good now, but just wait till Cuz turns back into a pumpkin at some point in time. But he was very consistent throughout Worlds, honestly. His early pathing was quite clever a lot of the time. And if anything, obviously, Keen, was one of the bigger issues in some of the games with his play overall. But I think BDD did an amazing job. He's not really an Akali player, and he had some, good Akali presence in game number 1 of this series. I think this was a very entertaining series at the very least, and KT did overperform my expectations in here. So none of these players are under contract next year, so we'll see an entirely new KT. This is the last hurrah for this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Cuz is just a Viego Sejuani 2 trick, essentially, and he was just getting his picks like the entire tournament. I think that as soon as they removed the Sejuani, it became a lot harder for Cuz to be effective in the series. But like from watching JDG all year, I think that people have this weird perception of JDG where they expect that because JDG wins every like series that they've played all year, that the series are clean. They have a lot of ugly series. Like they've had very tough series. I mean, even the finals versus LNG was looking fucking doomed at a point. Like there's always a point in JDG versus like BLG series, like in spring, for example, or like the JDG versus LNG or JDG versus T1. There's always a point where it looks really hard for JDG, but they always somehow manage to win. And I think the problem with KT is that they just play way too slow. The reason why T1 went the furthest in this tournament is because they're the only LCK team that actually will fucking hit objectives. Like they'll be ahead and then they'll just do the objective and force it. They'll start an objective, use the fact that they have like Xayah or whatever champions to actually, force the issue. And as soon as they get that advantage, they keep on going, which is how LPL teams play. And I think that's just the best way to play League of Legends on this patch.
Yes, totally agree with you. I think that tempo and having especially early bot lane pressure has proven so beneficial. Like if you look at the teams that are winning, like GenG's style of trading the first Drake or two for cross map pressure is not ideal on this patch, because now we're seeing teams take first Drake at literally almost at spawn, right?
Yeah.
And this is forcing situations where you have 21 to 23 minute souls. And teams that have had extensive bot lane pressure have been the teams that have been performing the best. Like we saw that in the Billy versus GenG series too. Like it just complete early game Drake dominance by BLG, and obviously that was a hallmark of T1 versus LNG.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the main issue that I see with GenG is that they don't even commit to their own style of like giving Drake. So for example, when you look at the GenG series, like the time where they lose the first game is over like second Rift Herald, where they don't even have item spikes. There's literally just no reason to ever fight that. It's not an important objective. They're not on the spikes that they need to hit. They actually had the ability to stall out this game, potentially play around 2 core items on their AD carry and their mid laner, and instead they just send it on 1 item versus a team that is way stronger than them, and they just lose the whole game right there. So I feel like this has been the problem with GenG internationally, at least this year. I felt the same way at MSI, is that their fight selection just doesn't feel close to as good as their fight selection domestically. And I don't know if that's just because they're more comfortable versus other LCK teams. But the thing is, T1 normally plays like an LPL team. T1 is the most LPL LCK team that there is. And when they play against T1, they're very good at choosing their fights wisely. They don't give T1 those free fights, and then they fight on good item spikes and they just roll them every single time. Like GenG just beats T1 all the fucking time this year. Like, what is the overall record that GenG has against T1? Like, it feels like they're always beating them. So
both finals, most in spring, I think they lost in the regular season. Yeah,
they lost in the regular season in spring. In summer, they ended up winning both regular season. They lost at MSI, I believe, to T1. So that was one. But just overall, when they're like playing against T1 here recently, yeah, they beat him here. When they're playing against T1 recently, it just feels like they are super measured, and they just because T1 wants to fight all the time, they just take the fight that they actually have the advantage in. They win that, and they win the whole game. It doesn't feel like GenG does this versus LPL teams. Like specifically Billy, they're the LPL team they keep on playing, right? Just feels like they get sucked into that like Chinese fist fight, and they lose it every single time.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to get in a fist fight with Bin. So there you go.
Yep. Amen.
I thought that was a good one. That was a good one, Monte.
It was good.
Do you want to go on? Do you want to go on your rant again? No. All right.
I'll get into a fist fight with Ben anytime. I can take it easy.
Remember, everyone. Monte does Muay Thai and boxing, and I've seen it. People don't believe that you do it, Monte, but Monte rolled up with his Muay Thai shorts, the shiny shorts, has his name on it, goes over and beats the shit out of people at one time, comes back, and right in time for dinner. So
that's right.
Don't mess.
I like
with him.
this narrative. Keep up this false narrative. Keep it going. It makes me sound great.
All right. Well, the LCK teams that fell there still have holes. The keen pain is over, but we'll always have the regular season to look back on, KT fans. Something else to note, just real quick, and I know I've been a little like kind of all over the place today, but one thing that happened during the KT desk on the English broadcast, they had the full female desk, and I thought that was probably the coolest thing because every single one of them works their butt off and belonged there. It was Shox hosting with Emily, and then you had Lore, who spent time in the LCK this year, and then you had Jisun, who does like so much for the LCK as well to break it on down. I think that was the KT series. It was like one of those coolest things that I've seen in esports, with inclusivity and people that deserve to be there, meritocracy, all that stuff. So anyway, shout out to the broadcast. You know, we get on them when they do things wrong, but I want to make sure we like call it out when they do things right. And that was like really cool. So
I also think that it's good that Riot is giving more lore of like Laura a shot to do analysis, because she's been on Summoning Insight before and has been great in terms of articulating her points and has been quite sharp and astute. So she can do more, I think, and she often does it in French. Like on the French side, she serves more of that role.
Saboutine all the time.
Yeah, so I think it's great that they're using her, because I think she was actually underutilized previously. Also, I think just in terms of a passion perspective, you know, Emily has always been a massive KT fan. Lore really likes KT as well. So maybe a little bit biased on the desk in that sense. Maybe a bit biased, but I love bias on desks. I mean, clearly I'm very guilty of that because I think it makes it more entertaining. And to have like that, the KT diehards there pleased me, right? And all I have to say is chicks dig KT, so you should probably be a KT fan.
Yeah, unless you like happiness, unless you like happiness and like, supporting a team that eventually wins something, like then it's good to, if you want to be disappointed all the time, you could be a KT fan.
Hey, there's never been more sweet sorrow than being a KT fan.
True.
There it is. I will say the biggest sadness from a team getting knocked out was still the D+ fans, the Deft and Showmaker fans getting into like crying groups outside of the quarterfinals like stadium, or outside of the Swiss stage stadium, was a thing I'll never forget. There was a girl that was working security who was crying with another girl who like was leaving the stadium. They were crying together because D+ got knocked out. And I was looking for that with the KT fans. I was looking at that with the GenG fans. They weren't feeling it that way. Some KT fans were like wiping their tears as they left, but like it was the passion there. If you're a passionate fan, you're a D+ fan. Go follow the Deft storyline. All right. Speaking of fans that got let down, LPL fans got let down by one of the teams that ruined the perfect semifinals run. The draw was there. There were no LPL teams playing other LPL teams. It could have been 4 teams from the LPL on in the semifinals to ensure that there would be an LPL team lifting the trophy this year. But instead, LNG, they messed it on up, and they are this week's target of Devoured, presented by Trolley. All right, this is a reminder for you all that this episode of Power Spike is brought to you by Trolley Sour Bright Crawlers. We can't get enough of their soft gummy texture and absolutely love the surprising flavor combinations, especially when you combine the flavors into multiple bags, because that means you bought multiple bags like Monte and I did. It's the perfect adventure for your mouth while you're gaming, thanks to our friends over at Trolley. Get your tongue-twisting, mind-warping sour thrills at trolley.com, Monte.
Oh, by the way, perfect for you KT fans, because you get the sour sweet combination that we KT fans always love. And also LNG fans after this game, speaking of the LNG experience, because you know what, Dom, my 2 favorite teams were KT and LNG. So of course it had to fucking go like this, right? I can only know suffering. That is my
True. I mean, look, all I'm saying is I was watching the series and it was literally 7 Koreans playing against 3 Chinese. Like, how can the 3 Chinese players win? Like, it was actually so fucking blatant. Like, I tweeted it out. This game was literally Tarzan and Scout getting military exemption in front of our eyes. Like, they proved loyalty to Korea like we've never seen before.
I also, just the tweets that were around this were just so funny. Like I was laughing. Like Rich's Wrath made a tweet that he had heard from somebody in the front row that Tarzan walked up to Faker and just said "Hail Hydra" before the match. It's so fucking funny. Like the narratives. I mean, Tarzan had been bad, and this is why I expected T1 to win this match. Because I thought that the early game pressure difference, and as you mentioned earlier, Dom, like it just feels as though the early game is so paramount to the success of teams at this tournament. And Tarzan had played one of the most passive Jarvans we had ever seen in some of the previous matches.
Disgusting. Like he was
terrible.
The thing about Tarzan is, so number one, I will take credit here. Nostradamus prediction. I said this was going to come down to which jungler decided to fucking run it down, and it ended up being Tarzan. Like, I knew coming into it that we were not going to have a series that was going to be straight up. It was just going to be somebody, like either Owner or Tarzan would decide that they want to go back to Seoul, and they were just going to fucking get on the train in game number 1 and already start fucking heading there. So it was a horrible series from Tarzan, but the thing is that I've watched a lot of Tarzan horrible series. I've watched him in the LPL for years. I watched him when he played with Griffin. And the thing about Tarzan is normally when he has a terrible series, it comes in the form of inactivity. He will AFK farm. He'll be like even CS. The other jungler will be all over the map, getting everyone ahead. And Tarzan will just be doing nothing. He'll just be AFK. He'll look like he's scared to make a play, won't make any plays, and then they'll end up just losing. this was like an aggressive rundown from Tarzan. Like he evolved into just solo losing every single game by himself. Like he chose that we are going to definitely lose. There's no chance that I'm going to AFK and you guys are going to be able to play. I will lose the whole fucking game for us every single time in the first 10 minutes. So respect to Tarzan for that. I mean, at least he you know, I think the coach probably said, get out there, just don't be a bitch, Tarzan. Like, get it fucking done. And, you know, he wasn't a bitch. Like, he didn't play like a bitch. He ran it down aggressively. He went out like a man.
Well, I mean, you just go back to that early on, the Jarvan play, ulting right under the tower. That was what I don't... Yeah. In the stadium, that was like some of the craziest shit that I think that all of us had seen.
Yeah,
I mean,
when I was doing
the level fucking 3 fight on Sejuani versus Poppy, we're number 1. Okay, I'll talk about this once because people were like so ill about it. Owner misskilled his abilities. He got 2 points in E, 1 point in Q, 0 points in W. Number 1, because Poppy, you're going to be level 3 for a long period of time if you go for these types of invades, you're almost always going to skill W. But if you actually wanted to play for the fight, you were like super 5-head, you're like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not going to care about Sejuani Q and like denying it or like the move speed, whatever. I'm going to play for just the fight to the death. You never put 2 points in E because Q is literally more damage. If you look at the fight, there's number 1, there's the same damage disparity between Q and E, right? It's just a 40 damage disparity, but Q cooldown goes lower and E is also super conditional. Like you'll always be fighting with your Q. You're not always going to be fighting with your E as Poppy. If they're not lined up on a wall, you're not going to press your E or you won't get value from your E anyway. So you're always going to be using your Q. If you even look at the fight, he hits a full charge Q. He hits a double Q on Tarzan when they get the first trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to hit both, but it doesn't even matter. Even if you only hit, like if you cast 2 Qs, if you only hit the first part of each Q, you're still doing equal damage to the E. It's a way lower cooldown ability, and it's not conditional the same way E is. You don't have to fucking put them like next to a wall in order to do it. Tarzan literally stood on the 1 pixel where the E would hit him. He got hit by 3 procs of the Q anyway, even in that fight. So it's a complete misclick from Owner, and the fact that Tarzan played it in the only way possible to lose, where he goes in, gets a good trade with his Aftershock, and then he lines up on the 1 pixel next to a wall. There's no walls in that whole area besides for that one exact area. It literally looked like a win trade. And then he just runs down top and just burns his own flash. Like, this was disgusting.
Just as an aside, he didn't know that Poppy didn't have W, and he still did a Q into the start of that trade, which could have been easily reactively W'd by the Poppy, and he would have gotten more fucked. You know, the reason why you take the W, guys, is because it actually, so it either helps you if the enemy in a lane doesn't have a dash, it helps you with the move speed kind of get there faster. If they do have a dash, then you stop the dash. And also, it really it gives you a deceptive amount of tankiness when you get low in HP. So I agree with Dom. There's almost no way you wouldn't take W at level 3 under this circumstance, because you can't count on getting the E in the first place, even though it's more likely in the confines of the jungle if you are doing an invade. But if you want to gank a lane, like you have to have the W one way or another. I mean,
it's still also that Poppy's going to generally like hit level 3 and then walk around the map for a long period of time. You're not going to full clear. And if you did full clear, you'd put 2 points in Q. E is the ability that people max last on Poppy generally in pro play, because the W cooldown goes from 20 to 12. And it's just a super useful ability. I mean, you're playing Poppy for your W to deny dashes, not for your E to stun people into walls. Like, people have to line up on walls for you to stun them into it. But yeah, there's no way that you'd ever go 2 points in E as Poppy, like intentionally. And if Owner did, then he's just trolling, and like somebody should just tell him not to do that anymore. Like, if he came up to me and said, "No, I meant to do this," I'd be like, "Okay, well, you're wrong. You shouldn't do that in the future." Like, there's literally just no argument you can make for putting points in E. So I hope that no one tries to make that argument, because it's really mentally ill to see like a clear fuck up and then try to rationalize that it's good no matter what just because a top pro player does it.
You mean Twitter?
Yes.
But also like so it is a testament to how bad Tarzan played that sequence when he actually did Q in a way that could have been stopped by Poppy W without knowing. Like, he should have assumed. He's a fucking jungler that Owner has W in that situation. So it was rather mind-boggling in many ways. In many ways, it was terrible.
Yeah. I think another player And I remember seeing this pick early on. It was like kind of interesting. Hong on the Blitzcrank did nothing. It felt like nothing in game one. It feels like he's still holding on to his hooks right now.
I mean, he got baited. He got baited. This was a great draft.
Yeah.
From T1. Taking the Neela as R5. T1 had really good drafting throughout this series. And also, I've been saying for a while during this tournament that I think red side is really underrated. And I actually think probably is the better side at this point in time in the tournament. And T1 just gets red side all 3 games, by the way. So they're able to get the pressure in bot lane every single game. Turns into literally every dragon. Turns into 12 drakes over the course of this series. And Neela is a pick that wasn't as common in the LPL, but basically all of the top LCK teams in summer played it at one point in time. Like T1 played it, KT played it, GenG played it. Like this is a pick that has been more common in Korea than in most of the other major regions. And that has been, I think, it's been a kind of this ace in the hole that I've been waiting for them to pull for this tournament, because I don't think many other regions are as used to playing with or against this champion.
Yep. No, the T1's drafts were really good throughout the series. I think that one thing that we've seen now is like Orianna into Azir is just Orianna favored, like just straight up every time we see it. Even in the game where Scout played it, he had like 20 CS lead on Faker. So going forward, I think we see less of this Azir into Orianna answer. But I think that T1 just in general, like they just got picks that they're really good at. And the biggest part for me about T1's victory was outside of the drafts, just the fact that Faker and Owner played on a way different level than they've played on for literally months, since about spring, I would say. Like there was no point where I felt like Faker and Owner were actually playing close to as good. I felt like Owner just was in his own head in LCK. Like it felt like he was really rigid. When I think about Owner at his best, I mean, it feels like he understood what to do in a game to get himself ahead, and he would always be able to like have like a game plan and try to execute it, where it felt like he was really lost in LCK. A lot of the times it felt like he would just default path top for no reason every single time. You could have Guma on Draven, you could have whatever the fuck you want as an AD carry. He was just pathing top all the time, getting nothing accomplished, and it just felt like he was lost. And then when Faker came in, his weakest point was his laning. Like it felt like he just wasn't that same good laner that, you know, we remember him for years ago, and pretty much all year he's not been an amazing laner, but his laning was actually really fucking good. Overall, I would say outside of game 3, I think his laning was good considering his matchups. So that was pretty surprising. If they're able to do that, then T1 is back to being like one of the best teams in the world. The only reason why people didn't have them there is because they didn't show that for like literally since pre-MSI. They hadn't shown this level of play since spring.
I agree with you. And also, clearly, you know, it wasn't reasonable to expect T1 to make the finals when Faker's coming off of this injury. This injury also, it would appear, sidelined Faker for most of the Asian games where he was on the roster. He played one game against fucking like Kazakhstan or something like that, but otherwise it was just the Chovy show.
The Asian games. The Korean games
also like considered just better than Faker at this point. Like, like before this series, Chovy is just before this weekend, Chovy was just considered better than Faker.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yes.
He was just winning every single time they play against each other. Chovy was literally farming Faker for titles, split after split after split.
Yep, 3 in a row now. Yeah, this is a scenario where it's still Faker did look good. He looked better than he has in recent memory. So we have to start there. But he's certainly not in the same form that he was in spring of this year. And still, to this point in time, he has played 3 champions. He's played 3 champions. Now we know he can play Nico, but he hasn't. And he has played Orianna, Sylas, and Azir. And there really hasn't been any pressure for him to move out of this. To Dom's point, I think the Azir matchup into Orianna, everybody loses this lane as Azir now. That is now, we have to consider that a losing lane scenario. It happened with Chovy in the BLG match. It happened on both sides of this matchup with Faker and Scout in this series. So we just have to assume that Azir is not particularly good into Orianna, at least in the lane phase right now.
Yeah, and the only, I think it's like 2 and 9, and the only 2 wins were Faker into Yagao, and then Faker into into Scout in this series, where he's also losing lane super hard. I just think that there's no way. It seems like there's no answer, because at first the idea was that you take Hail of Blades as Azir into Orianna and you win the early part of the lane really hard, and you try to transition that into like a mid and late game lead, but that seemed ineffective. Orianna just seemed like it was outscaling you. So now people are like, fuck it, we're going to try to match the scaling and go Conqueror. But then if you go Conqueror, it feels like you lose lane so hard that you never even
get down 20
to scale
CS.
anyway. Yeah. So it's like, what, like this lane, maybe it's good in theory. Maybe there's some way to play it that no one has figured out yet. But at this tournament, given the players that are left, I'm just considering it a fucking losing lane. You draft Azir into Orianna, you're probably going to lose lane.
Agreed. But and we also saw in the game where Nico, Orianna, Azir were all banned, which was game 2 of this series, Faker then defaults to the Sylas, but it was a first pick Maokai. So,
that was an obvious pick. Yeah.
He's, even if you're going to get a bad potential lane matchup as Sylas at that point in time, and you should assume like, it's LNG, like Maokai Jace is their jam. Faker's still going to have some level of relevance, especially when there's a Rakan in the game as well. Like, it's a fucking great Sylas angle. Like, it feels like LNG set Faker up for that Sylas angle. So we still have yet to see him play anything else besides those 3 champions. And I'm not saying that he can't. He has been playing Akali in solo queue from what I can see. But can he play that in his current mechanical abilities? Because we don't know how injured he is still. He says he's not, but like, come on. It's a decade-long repetitive stress injury. Is he really totally 100%? Probably not, right? It seems very far-fetched.
If you look at Faker throughout the year, he has had issues playing outside of his champion pool. The same thing happened in summer, right? Like when he came back, every time that he played Jace, for example, it just felt like they were going to lose. It was like, oh, Faker's on Jace. It's completely fucked. Like that. It just feels like he is somebody who finds like 3 champions to play at this point, 3 strong champions, and he just plays them over and over. So, I definitely think that there's angles. Like I think the weird thing is that like JDG versus T1, like this should be a JDG. Like even though it feels like T1 can win, like it should, like JDG still should win, and it feels like JDG is somehow the underdog.
Let's talk about that. Do our semifinal matchups?
Sure.
Let's get into it. Our final segment of the day, Galaxy Brain Club, as we close the book on LNG, who got devoured. It's time for the semifinal matchup discussion. We got 4 teams left. One of the LPL teams is going to be in the semifinals. Will it be 2? Let's talk about it. All right, Dom was ready to go. Let's get right into it. Back to JDG T1. Go, Dom.
Yeah, JDG T1. So I think that people see how dominant T1 looked, and they immediately feel like, oh, well, that was better than how JDG looked versus KT. But I would also argue that KT looked so much better than LNG that it's very hard to like do that type of math where it's like one team looked better versus another team that they're not playing anymore, and then this team looked worse versus like a team that is also out of the tournament. So that means that like the team that looked better is automatically going to be better. I always just hate that type of math in League. Also, I really hate like the transitive property of like, well, like JDG played against this team who, like, and the team that they played against actually did really bad into T1. So then JDG is somehow worse than T1. That shit doesn't work in League of Legends at all. Like it's also some of the most ridiculous shit ever.
It's also, you have to consider the game states which they're playing, and there was no punish against T1 because, like, for example, I do think it was a little bit cocky to play the Jace in the top lane in the 3rd game of this series. And part of this is, Sejuani Renekton. Right. Yeah. That can go very badly. I'm going to caveat this with several things. First off, I think that in the history of Korean League of Legends, when teams are very confident up 2-0 and they're in the earlier stages of a bracket, they do tend to play a little bit more cocky, oftentimes because they want to show teams in the future what they can do and influence future drafts. So I do think that part of this is decision making about they're giving JDG some extra things to think about. Part of it is that we have seen, think about the game at Worlds last year where Zeus was like 0-8 on Jace, and he still had an immense effect in the mid and late game. He's just very fucking good at this champion, even if he has a unbelievably rough laning phase. But the third part of this is that the win condition that was set up in the draft for LNG was never executed on because of the fucking Poppy Sejuani shenanigans that happened in the early stages of this game. So when the Jace just gets to free farm and they funnel all of the side lane resources into the Jace, there is no threat on the back line with the composition that LNG was running. It was the freest Jace game of ever if he gets out of laning phase scot-free. So we can't say in a matchup against JDG that T1 is going to get these crazy advantages that they got early, which gave them a free win condition, right?
Yeah.
That said, T1 will still win.
You think T1 will beat JDG?
You just slid that in there, Dom. What the fuck?
Yeah. T1 will still win versus JDG. I mean, look, this is what people said last time they played each other too. I think JDG,
it was a close game.
I mean, it was close. It was close, but I mean, if you look at the series, even though it ended up close, the two games, like the games that JDG won, the games 1 and 4, they just fucking stomped. And then the games that they lost, they were winning up until they lost one team fight at like 25 minutes, and then T1 just ended the game off one team fight. So like when you look at the series,
here we go. I think T1 is going to win. You ready? So I think JDG picked red side first, which I think is very smart, because the power that we've seen on the red side from T1, I'm very curious what their blue side draft is going to look like. This is T1 returning to their strengths. It's T1's greatest hits all over again, right? Now we're back to Jinx, Tahm Kench. Oh, here's Gumayushi's Neela coming out. They seem to have all of these edges when it comes to bot lane picks. And one thing that JDG was doing quite poorly in the series against KT was giving up advantages in the early game, giving up early skirmishes, having to fight back, having kind of like really, I mentioned this earlier, having poor teleport choices from 369. They were kind of playing the cross-map TPs worse on a lot of occasions. T1 has been on point with a lot of their TPs. They have played extremely aggressive, up-tempo macro games, ganking on one side of the map with two people, then teleporting both of those people to make a bot play to secure Drake. They have been everywhere, and they've been transitioning well. T1 has been the best team in the world, I think, this year of transitioning dominant early game performances into wins via objective control, dives, early barons, absolutely everything. And I think the advantage that this team has from playing all together with these 5 players for the last 2 years is really coming out, because now we're seeing all of the old strats. And remember, they can still play Caitlyn. They haven't even had a chance to play Caitlyn yet. You can't ban out Faker because even though he might only play 4 champions right now, it's too risky to give over some of these other picks. And I think that
ban out Faker. I think that the only pick that he looks really insane on is Orianna. Like, I think that's the pick that you don't want to give him. I think that you can give him Sylas. Like, if you want to play Sylas in this meta, like blind, good luck. Play Sylas. Like, I don't think Azir is that strong of a champion either. I think that also, if you look at the games, like,
it's also the Nico. He hasn't played the Nico yet, but he will, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, he can play the Nico if he wants, I think. But my biggest point is, when you look at T1, the games where they played, like, for example, Ashe Varus, they didn't get a big enough lead with Ashe Varus over what should be like a hard fucking losing lane. Like, when you saw how Gala was laning, I believe it was a Philios Rakan in that game, like, the Philios is down 10 CS in 1 plate in 8 minutes. Like, they should be able to win. If that's a missing Rakan, if that is missing Rakan and Ruler playing a Philios, I mean, Gala playing a Philios, it doesn't matter. If that's just a missing Rakan, you're winning that game. You're finding engages. You're finding like team fight angles that they can actually win at. And I think that T1 like was able to just get away with murder because, you know, the LNG was just playing so bad on the day. Scout was not playing well. Tarzan was not playing well. Hong was not playing well. They're playing 2v5. So I think LNG's incompetence is what made T1 look so good. I think JDG will not play that. They will not play scared like this when they play against T1.
This is
I think that T1 just has so many creative solutions right now, and the players are all playing at such a high level. Like I said, I totally buy into LNG fucking ran it, and so the places where T1 could get punished went completely unpunished, and in fact weirdly turned into advantages that you would almost never have against a team that was playing competent League of Legends. But even so, it's just the versatility of their picks. And it just feels as though the meta has fallen right into their pockets at a very fortuitous timing. You almost couldn't make this shit up, man. The storyline is so good. Like, of course, it's T1 who would be empowered by the shifts in the meta that we're seeing. Empowered, you know, the meta's empowering them to play through the bot lane very aggressively, which is how they got such success in the spring split, right? And
my
it
point
just
is
feels
that they're not even winning through bot lane the way that they should be winning through bot lane. Like when you look at how they played through spring, it was a lot of forced plays. They were dominating lane so hard 2v2 that the enemy couldn't even breathe, and they were bringing jungler and mid down early, and they were making this play like they were making plays where it felt like there was no counterplay to them. These champions are not as good as they used to be. Varus is not as good as it used to be. Ashe is not as good as it used to be. If you look at game 3, it's like a bunch of failed ganks bot side. It's not like they're just like dry humping the enemy turret. It's just fucking failed ganks after failed ganks bot side that they end up getting ahead from. So I don't buy into like the whole idea of like, oh, well, they're just playing like hard through bot. It's like they were not even winning the bot with the fucking Ashe Varus. Like they were considering matchups. They're not even winning the bot through Ashe Varus. So, and the thing is, JDG has made their money all year round by getting through hard lanes. Like they play Jinx Rakan. They play this shit no matter what, and they're always fine. Kai'Sa Rakan, and then they just end up monstering you in team fights. So I think JDG is like massively.
I mean, that's definitely how they're going to win if they win the series. I think, though, that with at the pace at which T1 is playing, in spite of these flaws, one thing that we've seen time and time again from T1 is that, you know, they would lose first blood in these games multiple times. They would be down first blood, but they would draw so many resources out of the enemy team that the answer was always, okay, well, we lost first blood. It's 5 minutes, 45 seconds into this game. Now we're going to take Drake in recompense. You have to recall, you have to reset on the map. We're going to accelerate this game in a way where you will have to fight us at some of our power spikes. They're like all in on lethality in some of these games very early on. This team is built to just win early. That's it. That's what they're trying to do. And I see that as a viable strategy about beating JDG at this point in time. From what we've seen from JDG in this tournament, they have been slow to move early on in these games. They haven't had the strongest laning phases. And I don't think that losing gracefully until you can 5v5 team fight. Is JDG so fucking good that maybe they can pull it off anyway? Possibly. I would say possibly, but I think that the meta is really shifting in T1's favor, and the pace at which they're playing the game right now may be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that JDG, people are really tunneling in on the games where JDG lost early game, but they're forgetting the 2 games where JDG essentially stomped KT in this series. So I don't actually buy into like the whole narrative that JDG is like super weak in lane. I mean, they also had to deal with the same thing GenG had to deal with, where it's like they played, like they had a 2-week break, and we saw GenG and JDG both come out flat, which I don't think is necessarily something that is going to happen in this next series. So I think that JDG, like they're favorites to me. Like they're favorites to me. I think that T1 is playing better, and I think T1 can now win. Whereas before, if T1 was playing at the level that they were playing on earlier, it would be literally unwinnable. They would never be able to win. But I think JDG is still
spend a lot of time talking on what people are calling, as we always talk about, the de facto finals,
which is so fucking stupid, by the way. Like this is like the fact that like if T1 wins this series, people are gonna be like, well, they've already won Worlds. It's like, bro, we literally saw them choke versus DRX. BLG is a better team.
They lost to BLG.
Yeah, they lost to BLG before. And it's the same thing. Like, we talked about this last week where everyone was just underrating the fuck out of BLG for some reason. Like, people just thought that BLG was going to get fucking smacked by GenG. Why? Because they lost to T1? Like, you can't see that a team like BLG can alter their strategies in order to take down a better team. Like, BLG will learn throughout the tournament. They will not be playing Syndra into fucking Orianna if they play T1 in the finals. They understand what matchups are good for them. And the thing about BLG is all 3 lanes have the capability to play all these different styles. They can play the Orianna mid lane. They can also go back to playing Talia. They can play Sylas. Like, they have the ability to alter their game plan depending on who they play against. And I think the main advantage that the Chinese teams have had over the LCK teams at this tournament so far has been their adaptations game to game. And I think that this is where like BLG will be one of the strongest teams. When you look at how they played, like even if JDG plays BLG in the finals, I know that JDG's won every single time. BLG should not be just written off. Like this team is talented enough to win the whole thing.
Yep. Let's talk about Weibo BLG quickly then. Because like we obviously haven't seen very much from Weibo, but they did dispatch with NRG in a very, easy fashion, it has to say. Like
2 and 3 were pretty 2 and 3 were pretty dominant. I will say 3, it felt like the NRG were kind of drooling on themselves a little bit, but yes, correct, it was dominant.
And they showed some good variation. Light, I think, had a very good series overall. They were willing to, you saw the adaptations. What we had talked about last week in terms of, Caitlyn Lux counters. Well, that's when we saw the old Ezreal Karma come out again. But they all they had to answer that by pulling out the Caitlyn Heimer lane, which is something that we would have seen last year, for example. And so we were kind of digging into last year's meta a little bit. But it's fun to see the teams remember that and be prepared for it. So it felt like Weibo was actually very well prepared for this series overall, and they had some good individual performances. And they, like you say, Dgon, game 1 was a little bit closer, but this is kind of what we expected from this matchup. And Weibo didn't really have to do anything super unexpected in order to win this one, but still not looking anywhere near as good as many of the other teams that we saw in quarterfinals.
Yep. The easiest opponent. I think Weibo is they've only won against NA and EU teams to be here.
Yep. And they also lost the G2.
Enough. Yeah, and they lost.
It's not even that they beat all of the Western opponents either.
Yeah,
they actually did also lose. It's that they've only beat Western opponents.
And if you think about BLG has had a hard road. BLG has not had it easy. They've already played against JDG in this tournament. They've played against KT. They played against T1. They played against GenG. They played against the best teams in this whole fucking tournament. So they've been ready, and they've been honing themselves. They figured out what they want to play, how they're gonna take on this meta. I think BLG is another team like T1 that has really found themselves, and they are just confident playing a variety of strategies. Bin is willing to play the Aatrox. You have to ban the Jax against this guy because you can't take it away. He's going to absolutely fucking smurf on you if you do. They have the Rumble Jarvan combo. They have the ability to play Vi. They play the Orianna mid. They also have the Talia strategies. Yugao can always play Ari. He can always play Silas. They still will be able to play Maokai, Jace. They have and now when you look at the bot lane, Elk has really opened it up. He played Caitlyn in this series. He played Senna in this series. He played Ashe. This guy, Kalista. I would be scared playing against BLG right now. It feels like they're really on top of their shit.
Yeah, I think they look really good, and I think Billy is the team that, to me at least, has made the most interesting and good adaptations in terms of the kind of weird bot lane evolution that we've seen over the course of this tournament alongside T1, because it's hard to tell whether JDG will do this or not, because they like to play into those late game situations. And it's also possible that because JDG was playing against KT, and we know what, it was kind of a weird matchup between KT and JDG, because these are probably the teams that have the top 2 priority on Zeri at this tournament, which is that's not a battle that you over Zeri that you expect to see in most of the matchups. And so it felt like both KT and JDG were kind of happy defaulting into scaling late game AD carries cull starts, which is not going to be true of a lot of the other teams in this tournament. And so I'm curious if JDG can evolve that way, but it feels as though BLG really did have a lot of the answers. Okay, you pick Kalista, we already have this strategy prepared for you, to Dom's point about coaching, where we're going to take the Ashe Tahm Kench. We're going to make your life difficult as Kalista. We're going to take these things away from you and see what happens. We're capable of playing the Caitlyn, right? We want to go into some of these matchups. And I think it's this flexibility in bot lane that has defined BLG and T1 so far, and will continue to be strengths. So I think this is an easy win for BLG. It'd be really shocking if Weibo won this.
All right, there you have it. Again, a lot of time and a lot of focus on the JDG versus T1 matchup, because that is, according to esportsbet, according to a lot of experts, two of the best teams in the world, JDG being the number 1, and obviously T1 still here. I think people would have had GenG up there as well. But I also feel like there's a lot riding on this just for fandom. I was thinking about this earlier, Dom, and this is kind of a knock on the LPL and less about you, but just I think the LPL does such a great job of branding their players for the LPL market, and it's been reliant on you and Forest and Kadril to push their brands out, push the players and the heroes out a lot more. Whereas T1 is a global brand, it will bring eyes to it. We are in Korea, and so I think T1 winning definitely saved the viewership from the West, at least. For
and from Korea.
Well, they don't care about good League of Legends. Like, people don't actually care about good League of Legends. People are like literally just drooling on them. So they're like, Faker, like, I remember him. Like, it's like they don't even fucking know what the fuck is going on. So like, this is just what it's always been. There's a reason I hate T1 fans, because that's like the epitome of what T1 fandom is. It's like, you say anything negative about T1, even at like MSI, for example, you know, it's like MSI never even happened. We go to this tournament, it literally feels like MSI just never even happened. Like, that was just fucking completely memory hold. Like, we didn't have an all Chinese final there. We didn't have BLG 3-0-3-1 like GenG and T1. It just is what it is. So like obviously Korea was just a more popular region because they won all the time early on in League of Legends, and people have, you know, they've held on to that. Hasn't been recently. Like, if you look at what's happened recently in League of Legends, if you look at since LPL started like winning these championships, it's fucking like what, like 9 out of 12 at this point, 9 out of 12 internationals. It's absurdly favored to LPL. So I think that it's just one thing that people started with Korean League. They were watching Monte cast back in like season 3. Like, there wasn't really like Chinese fucking League of Legends yet in the West, and they've just stuck with that ever since.
Why are you a T1
My fault,
fan?
guys. Really, the genesis of annoying T1 fans started with me, guys, even though I was always a KT fan.
It was your fault. The fucking conductor hat, the whistle, all aboard.
I mean, you literally just look at the comments, right? Like, we just talked about how T1 versus JDG was going to be close, right? And then the first comment from a T1 fan, yeah, MSI didn't happen. T1 didn't take JDG to game 5. Didn't happen. T1 frauds. JDG 3-0. Like, I said that at all. Like, I never said that at all. I was saying that it was going to be a close fucking series, and JDG can win. And I think that they're slight favorites. That's what I said.
I've also noticed that the T1 fans really like to bring up the JDG thing, but they never like to talk about how T1 was actually eliminated from MSI.
Yeah, by BLG, but it was like a dominant elimination. Like, it was a 3-1, but it wasn't one of those close 3-1s. It was a clapping 3-1.
It was a clapping. Just, all right, T1 fans.
But Dom, they clapped BLG this time around, and it had nothing to do with the fact that, you know, a level 1 Nidalee invade went completely sideways.
Yeah, or like game 2 BLG just had a fucking, like, if you look at like the draft that BLG played in that game 2, everyone has went away from. Like, that was something that people were playing earlier on in the tournament, where they were like Vi, Syndra, like, these are the picks. Now everyone's on the Orianna Jarvan side. Like, you're never giving Orianna Jarvan and getting Vi, Syndra as a trade at this point in the tournament. So teams evolve, and you get better throughout the tournament. You know, it's the same way as if T1 were to play against GenG in the next round. Like, let's say there was a losers bracket and T1 had to play against GenG. I would have T1 winning based off the fact that I think they've improved throughout the tournament, and GenG doesn't have a good read on the meta, right? Like, if they played tomorrow, I would have T1 winning. Even though T1 lost to GenG a bunch of times in the past, and they lost earlier this tournament, I don't hold that shit so sacred as everyone else. And I think the reason is because I've watched so many double elimination formats in my life, and I've seen teams come back from the losers bracket. And I don't think it's as simple as this team won once, they're just going to win for you know, the rest of eternity. I could definitely see teams that have lost earlier in the tournament improving from it and actually winning later on.
Clip it, T1 fans. Dom, in a theoretical world, picked T1 to win. So there's your, you could throw it back in his face later on. Yeah, there it is. Semifinals breakdown is complete. This past week in Busan, complete. We have 3 more matches left in the competitive calendar of LoL Esports, with the 2 semifinals, Weibo going up against BLG and JDG and T1, the big one there, before we head on over to the Sky Dome, where the finals will be in Seoul. Tom has had you covered there. Bangers only with Monte over on his Twitch channel. For those of you that can't watch it late, have responsibility. Don't worry, Monte is going to be rewatching it with you live. He doesn't watch it beforehand, so he doesn't know what happens. He might know the results.
No, I do know the results, but I frequently don't know what actually happened in the game. So I know the result. I know who wins, but I don't know. You know, sometimes I like see part of a game, but a lot of the time I just have, you know, family obligations while this is going on in the evening. So it's actually been very good, because a lot of the NA fans who don't get to watch the games live can watch them in a more NA favorable time zone, and the streams have been going surprisingly well. So it's been fun.
Dom has one of the best catchphrases of all of Worlds, which is after the draft, he joins the rest of his crew and he says, "Time to sack up." Right? Is that literally what you say?
Sack it up.
I love it.
Time to sack up.
It's great.
It's,
so
it's
make
the
sure
exact opposite of what Korean teams do in pivotal game fives. Instead of sacking up, they pick Jin Yumi or like Canyon plays Trundle. They don't sack up at all. So sack up with Dom.
Yeah.
Hashtag sack up with Dom.
Or they play Nautilus mid and MSI. Oh wait, never mind. That never happened. MSI never happened. Yeah.
That never happened. No, that didn't happen. Actually, your co-stream is what I listen to in the stadium since it's pumping out mostly. It's only pumping out Korean. So it is good to hear you and the guys and your insights on it as we go into matches. Again, highlight of the year. Got to interview Faker. Make sure to head on over to my YouTube channel to check that out. I will be putting out interviews with Niski and MNS. I guess I should have put out the MNS one earlier before they announced JoJo, but you can hear some of the stuff that he said, which was pretty interesting about his run ending over with Cloud9. And of course, just Faker, man, he knows English. He answered the questions. It was so cool. He was like, "Hi, I'm Faker," and I'm like, "No shit, dude."
Yeah, his English is pretty good.
Yeah,
he used to chat with me in the studio a lot of the time. He would come over like while we're getting makeup on. He would one time he asked me like, "Do you know my name?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I know your name."
Did he really?
Yeah, because I know his name is Sangyuk, right? And he's like, "Do you know my real name?" I also spent a lot of time talking to Faker's dad and aunts, who are always at the big finals and stuff like that. He's got a really lovely family, very supportive. It's cool to see.
Yeah. So make sure to go ahead and check out all the offerings of the LoL Esports content that the three of us are providing for the rest of Worlds. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to our channels on all the platforms. We want to go live on TikTok. TikTok Live is like a thing. We need a couple more followers, probably a couple more hundred, right? Is that what it is, Andrew? A couple more thousand?
Yeah, so
we know you use TikTok.
A ton of you guys watch it. We have so many people who watch this show. Go sign up over at Last Free Nation on TikTok so we can stream there too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all. We will have our next episode same time next week or around the same time next week. We'll be next week. We'll have the announcements out there. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you guys for the next episode of Power Spike.